Hey everybody, this is Eno. Today I'm going to show you how to change out a canister purge valve on a modern 2009 to current Ford engine. And the reason why this is important is because if you own one of these vehicles, chances are you are going to throw a check engine light because of the canister purge valve. It's very ubiquitous, it happens all the time, and it's an extremely easy and inexpensive repair to make to your vehicle. 9 times out of 10, if you're throwing a check engine light in one of these vehicles, it is the responsibility of the canister purge valve for those codes. And these things are responsible for a whole lot of different codes, pretty much anything that relates to whether or not your system is running rich or lean, or anything that has to do with vapors or emissions or anything like that is usually going to be responsibility of the canister purge valve. And often what they are is they get stuck. So that is what I believe has happened to this one right here. This is a 2013 Ford Edge. And it has a check engine light on right now. The code that it's throwing, it's actually throwing a couple of codes, but the code that it's throwing is basically that it's running too rich. That, of course, is a problem. So the first thing we're going to do before we do anything else to this vehicle is we're going to check that canister purge valve and most likely replace it. I would do that before I do anything else to the vehicle, or even take it in to get it looked at, diagnosed, or fixed. It's such an easy and inexpensive repair to make that it's not worth it not to, because 9 times out of 10 it will solve your problem. Okay, well, the first thing is you have to locate your canister purge valve, and in this particular vehicle, like I said, this is a 13 Ford Edge, is located just back here behind the intake, right next to the throttle body, located just back here. Easy to get to, but it's right at the back center of the engine compartment. Alrighty, so we have the camera repositioned here, and you can see here the canister purge valve. This is it right here. So this is the throttle body, right next to it, or right behind the intake, which my hand is on here. And this is it right here. There are 2 bolts that hold it on. There's a power supply up here at the top, and then down below here there is a vacuum line, and that's basically all there is to a canister purge valve. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do is check to make sure this is even working properly and that it's not stuck. My suspicion is, because of the code that this one's throwing, is that it is indeed stuck. Even if it technically passes this test, I still am going to go ahead and replace it, because a lot of times it fixes the problem. But there's one way to test for sure if it's working properly enough. So the first thing I'm going to do is disconnect the power, and all I do there is just pull the power connector out. Very simple. So the next thing I'm going to do is remove the hose here from the purge valve, and there's just a little clip back here that you just push with your finger or whatever, and that will allow you to remove this hose. It's just a little quick connect. And I'm actually going to use a flat blade screwdriver, just because it's a little easier for me to do that. Got big fingers. All right. Okay, there we got it. Right, like that. And there we go. I'm going to move the hose out of the way. So there it is. And if you'll notice, I'm going to kind of move the camera just ever so slightly here. There we go. That there's the little vacuum port that comes right out the back here. And that's where that hose just hooked up to. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and turn on the car, and I'm going to see if this is sucking any air in. Okay, so now we got the car on, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to put my finger in front of this to see if there's any vacuums. Oh, and look at that. You see that, how my finger is sticking to it? I'm going to give you a little bit different view of this here. All right, so here we are in a slightly different configuration here with the camera, and you can see the port right there. And if I put my finger in front of it, hopefully you can hear it too. There's a vacuum effect going on there. So, hear that? It's not strong, but just strong enough. So, with the car on, there shouldn't be any vacuum to this port right here. It should be, the valve should be closed right now because this has no power to it. It shouldn't be working. So its default is to close. So with this little vacuum suckage that we're getting here, and the fact that there's no power hooked up into this, means this purge valve is stuck and it needs to be replaced, and that's probably what's causing our check engine lights. Let's go ahead and replace it. All right, so now we'll go ahead and remove the purge valve just by first loosening up these two bolts up there. They're 8mm bolts. Just go ahead and loosen those just a smidge. And now the other one. There we go. So we just loosen those up. Okay, so now that our bolts are out, we'll go ahead and pull that out. So here is our old purge valve that we took off, the one that is stuck, and this is our new one. Relatively inexpensive part. Sometimes they will come without these bushings on them, so you'd have to reuse the ones from the old one. The one I have was slightly more expensive and it came with those bushings on it, which I like. So all we got to do is just plug this guy back in, hook up our wires and our hose, and we're back in business. Alrighty, and the time has come to put our new purge valve back on. So I did put a little bit of O-ring lube on there just to get a nice long-lasting connection. Push it down just like that, line up our holes. There we go. We'll replace our screws and hook everything else back up. All right, so there it is, replacing canister purge valve for a 13 Ford Edge. This one was bad, so went ahead and switched that out, and now we're running good. Everything's looking good, so we're all done. Cheap and easy part to switch out, and before you take your car in and have all sorts of things checked and sensors replaced and all sorts of different stuff, it's always a good idea to throw a few bucks at a canister purge valve. Swap that out real quick and see if that doesn't switch your problem. Even if it doesn't, these things do have a tendency to go bad and to not perform accurately over time, so it's a good idea to throw a new one on there every once in a while. Anyway, just keep everything running right. There you go. Take it easy.